Okay. Good morning, everyone. So today's class, these are the props that we're going to need. We will need a yoga block or a pillow. For maybe one exercise, a yoga strap or a rope tie. So if you don't have it, not a big deal, not using it very much. We're going to use a chair or like I have this little block and pad, which could be like an ottoman with maybe a cushion on it. But a chair might be helpful in today's class specifically. We're going to use a wall if possible, if you have it, while the yoga mat. You can always modify as we go. And so just some reminders that there is no pain with anything we do in class. Make sure that you modify or skip an exercise if it is bothersome. If you find you have shoulder issues, you can always go back to sort of shoulder blade squeezes. You can always lower your arms. I happen to be kneeling right now, but we modify things for the knees. So we've got some good options here. Knee pillow squeezes is also a good modification for a lot of exercises if something's bothering you. So we're going to go ahead and stand up and we will get started. Okay, so we're going to start off with a forearm stretch. So we're going to be putting our hands on the wall like this, facing down. This is how my palms go. And we'll sort of be leaning in a little bit. So we're going to get a little bit of an upper back stretch as well. So you want to be only a few inches from the wall, because if not, you'll be leaning in too much. That's going to put strain on your back. So we put our hands on the wall, facing down, my feet, looking down at your feet, checking, making sure they're parallel. And they're only about a fist width apart. They're not real wide. And some people will have troubles with their hand and you'll have to modify if you can. Fingertips are nice and straight, pointing down. Palms can touch the wall if that's possible. And then you draw your shoulder blades back together as you lean in a little bit. And be mindful that your upper shoulders are not drawing up towards your ear. Let them come down. That's a big thing to connect to. Many people during their day are just drawing their shoulders up and sort of stabilizing or compensating. And so we need that connection and awareness to what are we doing with our upper shoulders. And we're breathing here. Nice deep inhale. Exhale it out. And when we take our inhale, we want to put more into the belly and back and sides rather than, again, right up into the shoulders. We don't want that. We want a little bit into the chest, but more into the belly for nice, good inhales. We're holding this about a minute. Draw those shoulder blades together. Just getting things loosened up for the morning. Good to stretch out these hands from being on all the computers and phones. That's always a good one to just randomly throw in your day. Okay, so again, just reminding you, parallel by the outsides of your feet. Hip width is center of the hip down, not outside of hip. So that's different ways we can measure our stance. We're gonna do some shoulder rolls. We're gonna draw our shoulders back and bring them up and around. Draw your shoulders back and bring them up and around. My elbows, everything's just hanging down. I'm not trying to move with my arms or elbows. If you find that you're a little bit stiff in the area, you haven't done a lot of this, these may not be very smooth, but that's all part of what seems to get better the more posture therapy you do, and helps you with any type of exercise and work that you do, getting all these joints functioning and working properly. So now we're going to switch directions. We're going to go up to go back. And I'm also being mindful. I'm going to turn. We're being mindful of what's happening with our standing posture. Are we letting our hips go forward? Don't do that. Pull those hips under. Or are we kind of have a little bit of a lean? That's a big one that happens also. Okay, so I'm going back to the first direction, drawing my shoulder blades back, coming up and around, up and around. So happy Sunday. That's what it is today for us here in the live recording. We're gonna go up, we're gonna switch directions one more time, up and back. So nice to have everyone here. We are heading into fall, but in Florida, it is still hot. However, this morning was a little bit cooler, just a little bit cooler. Okay, all right. So now we're gonna do some standing glute squeezes. We're just gonna do a few with our feet turned out. This sometimes just wakes things up properly. So turn your feet out a little bit. We're using our muscles right back here, not with your hands, and you're trying to just squeeze them and release them. Trying not to do all the other muscles, try to be very selective. Our glutes sometimes aren't working properly, and so we need to kind of remind them. Okay, now we're gonna go back to feet straight. And again, it's okay to feel a little pigeon toe when we put our feet parallel, and then go back to your glute squeezes. This also takes our leg bones, and there's like a slight little rotation. So this is a little bit of kind of lubricating the joints as we do these glute squeezes, kind of just getting things loosened up, preparing for the movements we're gonna do. Sometimes we need this in the middle because we wanna kind of, after we've aligned something, then we want to activate the glutes. So we use these exercises in different ways and different sequences based on what we're trying to produce in somebody's posture. And so in our classes, we're kind of hitting a more generalized, some common things that happen with posture. So that's what we're aiming for. Okay, I'm just gonna move my yoga mat so I have more room on the wall. Now, this one, you don't have to be on the wall. If you don't have this much wall space, then just stand in the middle of the room. It's totally okay. Feet are parallel. Arms are gonna go out, palms up. And then palms facing out. If you have a shoulder issue, just lower your arms. So now we're gonna bend side to side. Notice my head and my arms are the same distance. So it's not this, no. And so we're moving. The movement's happening here, so it's not happening here either. That's a no. And we are going side to side, and we're going about 5 times to each side. Again, my counts are sort of estimated as I'm sharing everything with you. So again, in this class, we're just doing a lot of good things for our bodies. So the counts are just an approximate, and again, you're doing what your body can handle anyway. So if you have to stop a little sooner, that's okay. If I'm talking, you can, and pausing, you can do a few more reps if that works for you. So it's all about modifying this to yourself. Notice the difference as you go side to side. Okay, so I had gone about 1 feet wide. Now I'm gonna go about 2.5 feet wide. My feet are still really pointing straight out from the wall. My palms are out. And again, you have lower arms if you need to. And again, you could be in the middle of the room doing this without the wall. If you are at the wall, don't force your head on the wall. If it goes there comfortably, great. If not, that's okay. That just tells you that there's some work to do in your head position. It could be good alignment. It would hit the wall nicely. But if you're tipping to get there, then you're just sort of cheating the concept, and it really doesn't help you to do that. That puts more strain on things rather than letting your head be where it is. And what's great, we're going back to neutral now. And what I love about this alignment stuff is that a lot of times when I stand with my back against the wall, if my head doesn't touch so comfortably, after I've done a menu of my own or I've done a class, I stand against the wall and my head feels much more comfortable in reaching the wall, just giving us feedback of what's happening in the exercises. So it's a good time to check, well, how well does your head touch the wall? And we can check that in later on. Okay. So now we are going to go into sort of a runner stretch, but we're going to start the assisted first. I'll give you lots of options here for levels. So you could have your yoga block nearby. Okay, so this is very modified. Now, from an Egoscue perspective, the way this starts is kneeling and coming up. If that's uncomfortable for you, you could have just stepped into this approximate position. So this is one way. Notice how my back is nice and straight. My hips are straight. But for me, I'm okay with more than that. So you've got that back of the chair because I don't want you going here to get there. Then you need to go to the level that works for you. So this is another level, is the chair level. If you happen to have a yoga block, you could possibly, we're going to do this 2 times a side. So you have a chance to go lower on your second round. You could go lower. I'm going to start here. And I really want you to focus. I'd rather you be higher up. Focus on tightening this front leg, being the weight on the insides of your feet, both of them. Really ground your feet. And even tighten the back leg too. No knees are bent. I want you high enough where your knees can be straight. And that's why it could be a wall. It could be the back of the chair. If you happen to be so flexible, you can be down. There is a version of this that's more bent over, but right now this one we were taking that more with the flat back version. Okay, so I'm switching sides. I'm getting my alignment. But again, the distance is about 1.5 feet or 2 between. My feet are in line with each other. They're very straight. The back foot sometimes wants to turn out. Make sure it's as straight as you can. Tighten, tighten. This is very interesting for me. I will find that as I go further, my knee wants to let go. We're trying to connect this whole chain of our legs. So we're trying to keep that front quad really engaged and tight. And again, I'm sort of keeping my head in line with my back. I can go a little bit down. I can bend my elbows to modify that distance. And I'm holding this. We're holding this at, we're aiming for a good minute here. We're grounding our feet into the ground. So sort of the whole body is getting nice and warm as we sort of engage a lot of muscles. Then the oxygen starts flowing through the body. And there we go. Okay, so we're going to do another set. And again, you can go lower this time. You have 2 choices. You can stay at your exact same spot. You can go down. I'm deciding where I want to go to. Now, in the second one, you can go more the version where you're sort of letting a little bit more rounding happening. That's okay, but I don't really want that, not with the knees bent. It's only while you're still paying attention to the hips. And so again, maybe that would be here. I find 2 blocks is actually a little easier for balance. Or like this, a wider. I'm really trying to straighten my knees as I go this far. Again, in Egoscue, we will call this runner stretch versus when you're higher up with your back straight. That's more of what we call an assisted runner stretch. And they each have the letting your back be straight or bent down have different effects on what's happening through the hips. And so each have their own good benefits. Okay, I'm switching sides, getting myself set. Knees straight, no bend. Grounding through my feet. And then I'm sort of going down. Again, the one block is a little harder to balance on. Coming down further. Again, match yourself from side to side. Whatever you did on the right, do on the left. This is my second set. So my second set, I'm doing right and left the same. Letting myself come down. I can see my left knee wants to unlock in front, so I'm re-engaged it. Really trying to connect the chains of our whole leg. There's some ankle stabilizing going here. Stuff happening at the hip. A lot of things happening in this one. Okay. Now we're going to go to a standing quad stretch. So we're going to use our chair again. Again, this is where I'm going to give choices. We've got choices. So when you think of a quad stretch, we typically think of this. We're going to use a support and the wall if you can get your setup for this. Now, this would be me doing a high, very high level. Depends also on your height. That's going to play a factor on this. Another level could be this, where I have the yoga block here on the chair. And the idea of the wall is I want my weight really on both legs. So we're trying to use a loading rather than sort of leaning, or that's the method we're using. So I'm going to use the chair, and this would be more comfortable if you had a little towel on it, but I'm okay. And so notice how if you're paying attention, I want to activate my standing hips so I'm really sturdy on that. So I'm balancing, and then I can use the wall to shift my weight over both legs, and I'm tucking my pelvis under, relaxing my upper shoulders. So check down, make sure your foot is straight. And then we're gonna go through these cues. Your leg that's standing straight, make sure your hip's not jutting out to the side. If it is, activate through the side of your hip to bring it back in. Then use your hands on your wall, your sturdy surface, and make sure you're shifting sort of through both legs, not really leaning up and over the down leg, and making sure the pelvis is tucked under, which that gives a little extra stretch in the front of the bent leg. And then you want your upper shoulders letting go. And as you pull upright, you'll get more stretch in that quad. So we're really getting this one good, giving a good time to get in it properly. Hopefully you've made it where you can match sides. And again, this one, if it's not working for you, again, you could stand and do quad sets. Stand and just tighten and let go of your thigh muscles. Okay, so I put my other foot up. I want to be mindful of my down leg, that I'm not sinking out to the side, so I'm activating that hip. And then I'm using the wall to make sure I'm nice and balanced over both legs. Then I'm going to tuck my pelvis under. That increases the stretch in the front of the bent leg. Then I want to relax my upper shoulders. So then, of course, breathe, breathe. Don't hold your breath. And we're going to recap that. As we're saying here, down leg, make sure that hip's not jutting out to the side. Weight is over both legs. That's why we have the support of the wall. Tuck the pelvis under, get that extra stretch on that front of the leg. And shoulders relax. This can help with, believe it or not, this can help with one shoulder elevation. And this helps when we walk, we extend our legs better in our stride. A lot of things are happening. Again, this is how we use the exercises. What does it do to our posture and our movement, more so than what does it stretch or strengthen? That's just the posture therapy way of using exercises. Let's go into standing cats and dogs. And this is definitely one of those ones, if you don't feel right with it, just pop yourself into a chair and you can do the same thing in a chair, nice and aligned. Okay, so we are standing with our feet a little bit wider than hip, with hands on the thighs, just above the knees, and then you're gonna arch your back, and then you're gonna round like a C. And as I arch, I kind of look up if that feels okay, and then I round like a C. So this is a little bit more of a working cats and dogs, holding yourself here, but we are getting our pelvis to move in both directions, which we're trying to get a response all the way up through the spine mobility. And as I arch, I draw my shoulder blades back together. This is all the same if you're sitting in a chair or if you're on hands and knees in cats and dogs. Okay, we were doing about 10 of these. Okay, let's go start working our way downward. So I'm just gonna move this, and I'm gonna pop my chair out of the way. Okay, so as we go down to the ground, it's always good when you go down to have your yoga block and strap not too far away. Okay, so we're gonna do some toe stretching. So this is what's happening. We're curling our toes underneath, and I'm gonna show from the back view, is we're trying to have our big toes together and our heels touching as we curl. This is one of my favorites, one of my favorite yoga teachers, Nicole, who taught Iyengar, did a lot of this, and I feel like this really helped the function of my feet. So the really stretching under. Now, some people can come all the way up. I don't comfortably go there, so I could use my yoga block to help sort of take some of the weight off. So as I'm stretching, I can kind of shift my weight back and stretch those toes. You need to go where it's comfortable. You could use your chair, you could be up this high and curl them under, and that might be a stretch. Hands on the floor, rocking back, all different ways where we just gently put the force that we can tolerate on our toes. Everybody's different, depends on, this is very good for things like bunions and hammer toes, and all of that, or preventing them. So we're taking a good minute or so there for that stretch. So valuable. Do it whenever you can, throw it in your day. Okay, so now we're moving on to our hips. And so I'm putting my hands behind me. We're gonna be rotating in and out, but if this is not good for you, you can lie down and do one leg and rotate just one leg and switch back and forth. So again, you've got options there, sort of a gentler option depending on what's going on. If you have wrist issues or back issues that don't allow you to sit in this position, very tight hamstrings. Okay, so I'm straightening my elbows if possible. I'm rolling my hips forward like that, and then I'm gonna start rotating in, tightening my thighs, pulling my feet back, all my toes evenly. And so now I'm gonna rotate in and out. And when I say that, you don't wanna pull your toes more with the big toes or with the small toes. This is really the feet going for a ride, but it's also a chance to make this connection, hip, knee, and ankle all evenly. When we stand and our feet are turned out or in, and all different things happening in our lower leg, we're not getting an even pull with both sides of the calf muscles or the quad muscles or the hamstrings. And so this is part of evening that work out by really planting the foot, the toes, and sort of guiding the whole leg. Okay, so now I'm going a little bit wider, same thing. So I'm going to reset my pelvis, roll a little forward, trying to use my hip muscles, not my back muscles. And then I'm going to roll in and out. I'm tightening my thighs, pulling my feet back. And again, that might be limited with hamstrings where you may need to lean back or something. You have to modify again what you need. And again, I'm somebody who internal rotation is a little harder for me, the going in. So I take an extra little second there to work at that. I find I can go out. All depends on your body, what your tendencies are. Okay, let's go wider. One last position. Same thing, reset that pelvis. And I'm gonna go in and out. And I'm tightening my thighs, pulling my feet back evenly, and in and out. This hip internal external rotation is so important for the health of our hips. Keeping your hips, trying to avoid ever needing a hip replacement, or if you have one, we still want this motion, so not too late. Where you have to be careful is if you've been told you need a hip replacement, then you might want to be very cautious with this because you just possibly have a very degenerated hip already. So there are times where this may not be right, and that's where you listen to your body. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. Okay. All right. So we did those. Now we are going to go into child's pose. And so we're going to be getting the other direction of our feet now. Now, if you have your pillow, yoga block pillow, we're going to go down into a child's pose. So this is the full expression, but if you have your pillow, if your knees were having a hard time, you can do that. You could also be putting it under your head if you feel like you can't quite get there. If you had two things, if I needed to modify, I could. So, and if you need to, you can bend your arms this way to support. You could put your hands under your head if you don't have enough props. And so then we're breathing through our back. Nice deep inhale, exhale. Now, it really does depend on your body whether this is okay for you. That's why I say we can take just such a more gentle aspect to this and sort of just get a little release. So really be mindful here on what works for you. And then we're going to switch this into a more working position in about 20 or 30 seconds. So we're just letting sort of a release happen. It's good for the feet, it's good for the knees, good for the hip mobility. So a lot of things happening. And then sort of that internal back stretching, if you can add that breathing in. Okay. To add this to a working, more hip working is we go to what we call the elevated. And now my upper back is more straight. My hands are pressing into the ground. If not, they're here. Depends on what's happening with sort of this, your shoulder issues, how you feel. And then we're gonna see how my butt is raised. We're trying to find the place where you feel like, ooh, that's work to hold myself right there. That's what we want, right at these fronts of the hips, kind of these muscles. Sometimes when we sit, they get very shortened and they're not in a sitting position. They're working in a different way than right now. We're sort of the weight's down on them and they have to really kick in and wake up and go, oh, I need to work here. And then I just kind of can engage in the ground and get more happening in this upper back. So again, we're taking this into more working. You can still do the breathing here. Okay. All right, so now we are going to, I'm just keeping an eye on things. We're going to go into cats and dogs. So we're going to go to hands and knees like this. Shoulder rolls, shoulder right over the wrist, hip over the knee. And again, we're not too wide on the knees. And then we're going to sink our belly down and draw our shoulder blades together and head is up. And then go the other way. So we did this in standing. Now we're doing it in kneeling, kind of. We worked on sort of our upper back and shoulder positioning. We worked on hip mobility and getting some spinal mobility. And then typically we will get stability. That is probably what I have planned for the end, the second part of the class. So we are going through this just a few times, bringing everything together. So there's really elbow straight, draw the shoulder blades together as my belly is down and the movement is led otherwise with the pelvis. Okay. So I wanted to add in today hero squats. But this is something that if this is not a good position for you, you can do sit to stand in the chair. So I'm going to grab my chair. So this is sort of the modification. Hands behind the head. You sit really well on the chair and you're looking up and standing up. I know I'm chopping my head off, but that's sort of the, or you could just practice sit to stand without hands behind your head if that's too much. But because we've kind of stretched our feet and our ankle, and if you can sit this way, if you need to, you can absolutely start higher with your pillow or your yoga block. So we put our hands behind our head, clasp here, elbows pull back. And one last thing, great substitute. If all this is feeling not right and you're someone in more pain, sit in a chair and do some knee pillow squeezes. That just might be what you're ready for right now. And then you can progress. Okay, so we're pressing up and down. I'm gonna try and move back a little so I don't chop my head off. Okay, elbows pulled back, and we're gonna go up and go down. Now, this is happening, some of the work is happening. I'm switching my yoga mat. It's happening through the bottom, the tops of your feet, I should say. That's what's pressing into the ground. So there's, and then you kind of control all the way down. When you get to the top, you can give a little sort of glute squeeze. Up and down. So this is a different one, but it's affects our upper back position and sort of has our pelvis rolling differently over our femur. Taking out that lower leg, just change the dynamics a little bit. But if you're not ready for this position, knee issues, ankle issues, foot issues, there's so much variation here that you can pick and choose what works for you. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go back to hands and knees, but again, I'm gonna give you a stomach choice here. 1 second. Okay, so where I want to go is back to this hands and knees. I'm gonna move that out of the way. And I'm just making sure I'm aligned, and then you're gonna reach and hold. Reach and hold. So if this hands and knee thing is not working for you, the alternative is lying on your stomach, reaching opposite leg and opposite arm. They don't even have to lift. There's some really great benefits from just gliding. If it bothers your shoulders, you can put your hands under your head and just do your legs. So we've got a lot of nice options here. And so when we do these exercises, you can pick the place that works for you. And so you can see how still I'm trying to be. And that's where, so if you're somebody and you're wobbling all over the place, then all I'd want you to do is just lift a little and work on your balance. That could be where you're at, or just do your legs, or just do your arms. The stableness is what's so important here. It's like almost that our arm and our leg become sort of the challenge and the increasing your weight per se, the body and the core stabilizing. So if you move them a lot and this isn't strong enough to hold still, then we're sort of missing what this exercise is intended to do, especially from a posture alignment. This is a common exercise used and just has such good benefits for a lot of people, as long as this hands and knee position is good for you. You could be on fists if you have wrist issues. We've got our modification, and from here, We're, I believe, going back to standing for a few more. Keeping an eye on where we're at. Okay. Let's see what my plan is. Yep, we are going back, upward, and we'll finish down at the end for meditation. So let's come on up. Today's class is just less on the floor. Okay, so we're doing what we call the ultimate abdominal exercise. So we put one foot in front of the other so they're parallel to each other. They're not in front of each other. And we stand like this. Now, if you have balance issues, you can turn your foot backwards. You could have a chair nearby or be near a wall. And then we're going to sort of crouch down a little bit. And then we're going to go back and forth with our hands, sort of cheek to cheek. That's the direction, kind of with blades. And our abdominals have to kick in here and stabilize. So when we were on the floor, we were getting more of the back side of the core stabilizing even more by lifting the arm and leg, even though everything was engaging a bit. And here we're getting a little bit more of the front side. Okay, and make sure you're breathing. Okay, switch sides. Okay, so again, your foot can be there, or here, or down. You could even be in a chair. If this wasn't right for you, you could sit in a chair and still do the arm motions in a gentle way. You could go slower and controlled if you needed to. And in terms of posts lately on Instagram, I've been a little bit slower on I love taking trainings and certifications, and I am working on one that's more of an in-person thing related to just dealing with the inflammatory side of the body related to chronic pain. It's called innate allergy elimination technique. So just haven't had as much time to make my videos. Okay, so now we are going to do block and strap and sitting. So come around, we're gonna just sort of stack everything up, bring everything together. So your yoga block or pillow between your knees. I'm showing you the side view so you can see knees over ankles. And when it comes to here, you're rolling forward with your hips, not your back. And my feet are nice and straight. And then my head is over my shoulders, and then I'm squeezing and releasing on the block. Squeeze and release on the block. And so we're going to do about 2 or 3 sets of 20. Again, I'm going to estimate, and we'll probably reset once or twice. And then we're going to do the same thing, but with the strap pulling out. And I'll give you an alternative if you don't have a strap. So this, we're looking at our inner thighs, or we're sensing our inner thighs. Does one feel like it's firing more than the other? We're trying to get a little bit of balance and evenness in our body. This is all about shoulders are over heads over the shoulders, over the hips. We're just aligning everything and letting the muscles work with everything in better relationship to each other. Okay, I'm letting it go for a second. Rolling my pelvis forward one more time, again, from the hips, not from the back. And then we'll do one more set of the squeezes. Squeeze, release, squeeze, release. So let's see. My daughter had a quick trip home this weekend from college, very short. She just needed like a little home reset. She's away, so that's been my excitement. And we are going to see her shortly up in there. So very exciting. Just being mindful of what's happening with all the positioning, mindful that there's no tension in my shoulders. Okay, strap. If you don't have the strap, you can just do same position, rolling the hips, and then just work on raising your heels sort of from the front of your hips. It creates sort of a stabilizing in your hips as well. So that's an option. Otherwise, we're putting our strap on. Same concept. Knees over the ankles, feet are straight. Roll the hips forward and then pull out. I'm just going to come back to the center. And then I'm nice and stacked. And so I'm pulling and releasing. Pulling and releasing. And so about a fist here. So if you feel too wide, then tighten up your strap a little bit. Pull the loop. And just keeping an eye on time and where we are headed today. So again, we love so much in this class. I'm just always balancing muscles out, balancing the position of our body out. And then at the end, we're just trying to stabilize some muscles to kind of hold everything where we want it. And so that when you're walking and moving, you feel a little more balanced or sturdy. And I'm going to relax for a second. We'll do a second set. So I'm going to reset my pelvis, rolling right here, being mindful it's not in the back. And then I'm going to pull out and release, pull out and release. Pull out and release. So hopefully everyone is having a good day. And maybe by the end of this, you feel lighter, freer. Always good to take a little walk afterwards if you have the time. It's nice to take a functional body and put it to work and see what it feels like compared to what you normally feel like when you do certain activities. Okay, we are going to stand back up. Have your chair nearby. We're still going to come back to the sit to stands. And we're going to do some elbow curls here. Okay, so feet are parallel. You could be against a wall. You don't have to be against a wall, whatever works for convenience right now. We're going to put our hands in the golfer's grip. So this is the bend the first knuckle and stick the thumb out. And so it's not this, it's more than that, okay? Once we do that, then we bring our hands up, knuckles on the temples. And the key here is imagine you have a board that does not let your wrists bend. You've got to relax through here. And then we open and close. I do find a lot of people have troubles with this when I'm working with them. I think it's more mechanics. So I'm going to give you an option if you need to, hands behind your head, and you can do a little bit of a simpler version of it to get started. So it just depends if you're having troubles figuring out how not to let your wrist bend. We're trying not to put any strain on the carpal tunnel. We're just working through the hinging motion of the shoulder to the upper back. Feet are straight. It's okay to feel a little pigeon-toed here. Okay. Okay, now we're going to do a little bit more of the front of the hip work. A little space here. I'm going to So it is called Stork Walks, and we're gonna walk like this. If you need to for balance, you could just stay at a wall and go here. You can have a chair nearby, but if we're good and we can move, arms in front, when we raise, when we step. So the key here is not to be this way, is to be more this way. That's what we want, okay? This way. Now, you could put your hands behind your back. That's another, and behind your head. Different versions of this same exercise in the Egoscue program. And so I'm sort of just going back in the space that I have. And it's, again, it's waking up that front of the hip and being mindful of not tilting back. That's using momentum or using your back muscles. We're trying to really lift up. It's kind of surprising. Our front of our hips are not always working as well as we think they are or as they need to be. This is a big problem in modern society. These front of the hip flexors, sometimes they are just so tight, and but then they also aren't working well. So we need to sort of remind them of their job. And when we walk, it's that muscle that brings our leg through and controls. So that's sort of helping to retrain this muscle. Okay, let's go to some sit to stands, which you may have done when we were doing the hero squats. So you can go for another set. Again, you can always alternate to just the knee pillow squeezes if you're feeling like too much. You can always skip an exercise, hands behind the head, right here. Now, this is one where you want to be sitting, again, further on the chair because you want to know that the chair is going to be there when you sit. So I am looking up at the ceiling and then I raise up. Now, if you find your knees collapse in, grab your yoga block, your pillow, and put it there. We want this whole chain working correctly, not in a collapsed position. And so you can kind of do this at your own pace. These are typically done in sets of 10. You could do it in a set of 5 or 7. Just listen to your body. And again, as we work through it together, we may get through 1 or 2 sets. So just sort of go with what's comfortable for you. And going up and down. Looking up towards the ceiling. I just find my head is being chopped off. And this is a good one. This is a working one today. I feel like we've definitely worked today. We kept it moving. Depends on the day. Sometimes we're a little more relaxed and stretching on the floor. Today's a little bit more working. Okay, take a break. And you can, while I'm talking and going to the next one, if you want a few more reps, you can get a few more reps in. So we're gonna go down to the floor. We'll do one more exercise and then we're gonna put our legs up on our chair or our block so that we can go into static back for meditation. One thing that we can do right before we go down to the floor is we can sort of check our head against the wall again. Feet are parallel and just stand with your back at the wall and just do a little check-in and see how easily does your head touch the wall and how much did this work that we did today influence that. And that's what part of what posture therapy is all about. And it's always good to feel what change to reproduce or not produce from what we did. If sometimes we don't get the gains we're looking for, then maybe that's not so much the combination for us. Okay, so we're back in here. Let's put our arms out to the side, palms up, shoulders kind of letting go. This is one of those ones, where's it? Little towel. I find sometimes you may roll up your yoga mat or put a towel down. If you find your head is tipping backwards, and that's a modification we need so that you can nicely release. We don't want to be doing this. You could be taking a mat and going there depending on what you need. So these are great modifications. Okay, so we're gonna go arms down like this, and we're gonna do what we call cross crawling, kind of done similar to the stork walks in standing, but now we're gonna do it in a different angle with gravity. And so opposite arm, opposite leg, again, any shoulder issues, modify, don't go as far. And I'm going to look back towards my hand, if you are comfortable with that, looking back towards my hand. That's just gonna add a little bit of more of head position work. And mind, see how I have this, not this, okay? And this is not an abdominal exercise. The legs are not up in the air. It is a little bit of an abdominal, but not the same thing. It's not this, not that kind of motion. It's this way and control it. Looking back. Ooh. Okay, we've got a few more repetitions left, and then we will take our nice little meditation. And hopefully you got some good variations of things and we're able to make class more to your level. At the end, you may want to, when you come back up, you may want to stand with your body against the wall and sort of check your head position and see how you're feeling. We happen to already be on the floor. I did not check it in standing, but that is something that you can do. Okay, so we are going to go into static back for our meditation. Okay, so, and you could have rolled to your side to get up. I kind of just pulled myself up, but I'm feeling pretty good. So I'm okay doing that. Again, if you have any back pain, sometimes rolling up through the side and going back down that way is going to be more comfortable and less strain. So as we get into this position, I'm going to turn on our nice meditational music, but arms are out to the side, palms up. Again, if you need your little towel, you modify and go ahead and get comfortable while I get us some meditation music. Okay, I want you to close your eyes and wiggle your fingers and then just let them sink into the ground. Wiggle your toes and just let them go. Sort of let your legs drop out a little bit if you can, whatever surface they're on, supporting you. Again, we're going to have a moment of gratitude for our bodies and for everything it could do today for us. There's so much to appreciate about the movement, the thinking, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting. Even if you're feeling a little challenged by not being able to move and do everything you want, let's appreciate what it can do and how much you plan on gaining and getting back to. Let's go ahead and soften our eyelids, tongue on the roof, and roof of the mouth, teeth slightly open, and just relax your jaw and just take a few moments of quiet. And if you're distracted, then come back to the breath. We're going to go ahead and connect back in. Wiggle your fingers again. Maybe stretch your arms overhead. Take a nice inhale. You're just going to take your time, go into your right side, and slowly bringing yourself